every electioneering period, the question is, are we going for leaders out of experience or out of education? At the heart of this motion today is the motion that reads, the fate of a nation lies in its educated leaders. I read the motion again. The fate of a nation lies in its educated leaders. Debating this motion today is Kyeni School versus St. Bakhita, Siakago in the Lower Eastern Region. Debates here. Team proposition, first speaker, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this grand opportunity to propose the motion that states, the fate of a nation lies on its educated leaders. Nelias Mombi, Kyeni Girls High School. First and foremost, I'd like to say that educated leaders have aided in the development of the health sector. Take, for example, our Kenyan president, who has brought an equipment known as the cyber knife, which is used in the treatment of cancer. This machine has helped in eradication of cancerous cells near very vital organs, such as the brain, the heart, and the lungs, where the normal radiation machines could not have gotten there. Thank you. On to my second point. Educated leaders have come up with better ways of resolving conflict other than violence and war. Examples of negotiation, mediation, arbitration are such ways. Let me take you back to the year 2008, where Kofi Annan came to Kenya to mediate between the two fighting parties in Kenya. He brought peace back to Kenya through the way of mediation. The UN, an organization which was made up by educated leaders, was made after the World War II to make sure that no other war can come up like that. And so they came up with ways such as negotiation and dialogue to solve problems between countries of their nation and neighboring nations. Educated leaders help in the growth and development of a country. Educated leaders are learned, so they understand more about economics and ways of developing a country. Take, for example, the various places where Kenya has developed due to the leaders we have had who are educated. With that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to oppose on the motion that says the fate of a nation lies in its educated leaders. First and foremost, I'll begin by contextualizing on the motion. The statement, the fate of a nation lies on its educated leaders, suggests that the quality and capabilities of a nation leaders, particularly their level of education and knowledge, significantly impact the destiny and progress of a nation. On to my first point, opposition. Engagement of citizens, democratic processes. In democratic systems, citizen engagement is crucial for the functioning of representative governments. Through voting in elections, citizens have the power to elect leaders who will shape the nation, policies, and direction. High levels of citizen participation lead to more representative and accountable government, as leaders are more likely to be responsive to the needs and aspirations of the people. Take, for instance, the government of Daniel Moi. He was a dictator. And look at his government. He did not involve the democracy of the people. And so he ended up taking matters onto his own. And it was this critical that he did not allow the people to express themselves, that if you would say anything bad about him, you would get punished or you would get a severe punishment. And so I say, engagement of citizens is really crucial. I do not oppose, I'm not going to say that educated leaders are not therefore important, but if you involve the educated leaders plus the citizens, it leads to 100% development of a country. Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this humble opportunity to propose the motion that says the fate of a nation lies in its educated leaders. I'm Elizabeth Ndwega from Kyeni Girls. At first and foremost, in this third world country that we are in, we depend on the education as much in order to find, because this education helps us to find employments. Yes, employments. You can't, most jobs these days depend on education. Like, imagine in a world of having teachers who are not, actually teachers who are educated. Our teachers are educated. And as the matter of fact, the teachers are so educated who also impact us with the skills to become educated as them in order to be great leaders. Yes, on to my second point. Educated leaders will develop a nation that is civilized and has morals. These educated leaders are more specific. They're actually educated, of which they have studied more on people's rights, and they are able to lead people in the right way, in which they are able to serve people in ways that will promote equality in the country. Because in this, when a leader is educated, the leader is able to know that, for example, in the past, women were not taken to be so important in the communities, and therefore women were never given chances to become leaders. But in this world, with this world country, women are now taken. Women who are educated are more. They rule our country, as you all see. In Kenya, like for example, in Kenya, we have over 11 governors who are women. Yes, and with that case, I rest.
Rispa Mikali from the Bakhita school, here to firstly confute on what one of the proposers said. The first speaker talked about educated leaders bringing an impact in resolving conflicts. Let me take you to the traditional times. They still had conflicts. And how did they resolve the conflicts? Through negotiations. So it does not mean that being educated, this is a logic thing. It does not mean that being educated is going to help you to resolve a conflict. The first speaker was Lucy Nyikamba. Educated leaders can positively influence a nation's state. They offer various factors that can shape a country's trajectory. On to my first point as to why I support the opposition team on the motion posed today is societal factors. Societal factors play a role in the fate of a nation. These factors encompass a wide range of social, cultural, political, and economical aspects that influence a nation's development. And so, a way in which societal factors can be proved to have worked is through political systems. The type of a political system adopted by a nation, such as democracy, autocracy, or even dictatorship, can have a profound impact on the nation's development. And in contrast, oppressive or unstable political systems can hinder the progress of a nation. On to my second point, empathy. Empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of others, can play a significant role. A way is through social cohesion. Social cohesion fosters a sense of connection and understanding among people within a society. This sense of unity and mutual understanding can contribute to a stable and harmonious nation. And with the points that I have pointed out, I believe that educated leaders can not only be the fate of a nation, but it includes other factors.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this golden opportunity to propose the motion that states the fate of our nation relies on its educated leaders. Before I start, I would love to quote the late Nelson Mandela's words, another hero of Africa. He once said, "Education is the most powerful weapon for success." And that means if one is educated, it will officially and just bring the country to success. Educated leaders know what's best for the country. For example, building dams and starting irrigation schemes to stop the nation's hunger. Together with this, through education, one gets various skills. Not that when one isn't educated, they don't have skills, but they do. It's just that once one studies and they learn more, they try out things and they find out things that they didn't know before. Together with this, educated leaders have stopped and eradicated cultural vices. For example, FGM. Give an example, in the past, when FGM was still there, most ladies, they died because of excessive bleeding. There's also early marriages, when kids want to get a better future, but they get married early. And with that, I rest my case.
Well, fate is a thing of the future, and the future is started by building it today. Just like a house that started from stones, and now it's a beautiful mansion. Caroline Moki, of course, supporting that it's not a must for the educated leaders to be there, for the fate to be a bright light of a nation. You see, I'd first like to rebuttal my proposals. The first speaker talked about the educated leaders contributing into health sectors. They are contributing into health sectors and still in hospitals there are no medicines. Also, you talked about solving problems without violence. Aren't there still peaceful demonstrations which are violent? And the president is educated, a doctor in fact. Going to the second speaker, you talked about the third world countries depending on education. I want to ask you something. You see, a nation is not built by only leaders. It's built by citizens. So you want to mean that Juakali need education? A farmer, just a simple farmer, relies on education to get his living. I move on to my first point where I talk about international frameworks. You see, these are frameworks established through international agreement, treaties, and such, whereby they are rules or guidelines that are needed to be in a nation. So you see, they are needed to be seen in a way, and in this way in a nation, they are needed to be seen in economic growth. So they produce the terms, they produce the rules that they want to be in economic growth. You see, economic growth is a very big factor in building a nation, right? So if the rules are dictated by the international frameworks, how is an educated leader going to evade these rules by international frameworks, and yet they have agreed in treaties? So I do believe that an educated leader is not a must for the nation to develop, for a nation to have a successful future. And with that, I do rest my case, believing that I have convinced you to come to my side, supporting that educated leaders are not a must for our nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me yet another chance to propose the motion that states the fate of a nation lies on its educated leaders. Nelias Mombi, Kyeni Girls High School. To my second proposer, she spoke about uneducated leaders promoting empathy in the country. Let me remind you that leaders, educated leaders, study psychology, which helps them to understand the emotions of the nation, therefore contributing to not only development of the infrastructure, but the development of the people as well. Let me take you back. Also, the third opposer spoke about the Juakali industries not needing education, and also farmers not needing education to do their jobs. Let me remind you that Juakali people deal with money, and money is in the topic of finances, which is studied. In order for the person to learn on saving, budgeting, and using the money in order to grow the business, he or she needs education. With that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Rispa Mwikali, back at it again to the motion. I'll first like to pose a question to the proposers. As you have said that educated leaders foster empathy, did Daniel Moi foster empathy? Wasn't he an educated leader? Anyways, it is true that educated leaders can contribute positively to the fate of a nation, but it is essential to recognize that not only these educated leaders
There is also other factors that contribute to the fate of a nation, and the role of education is just one aspect. Education, combined with other factors like effective leadership and governance, which in turn can play a significant role in the success and progress of a nation, is just a way as to how the fate of a nation cannot rely or only lie on its educated members. Thank you.
I'll talk to Kyeni girls, and I will mention the issue of underutilizing time. When you say that educated leaders, we can check at various places where Kenya is developed. It would have been good to actually give an example. Get Nelias, you'd have given an example. X place is developed because of such leaders. When it comes to St. Bakhita, Caroline, you are a good speaker. But again, when you gave an example of the Juakali people, you'd have tried to explain how does that now correlate with the fate of the nation, so that now we understand what kind of argument you're trying. But I liked what RISPA did by attempting to give the alternative on the collective effort instead of just saying we are doing away with educated leaders. That was good. So all the best to both teams.
The fate of the nation lies on its educated leaders. I like what St. Bakhita started off by saying. It's not just about educated leaders, and you can decide to take whichever side. I thought you would have actually given examples of people who were never educated and were great leaders. You didn't even go that direction. You just to say, listen, it's about the citizen, it's about the people who can be there and many other factors, which is okay. It's still a good sign to debate on. But then if you go that direction, then you want to give very substantial examples and prove to us that this has happened in places where it was not necessarily the educated leaders, but other factors that made a nation, strong or whatever it did. You get it? So what we were lacking from your end, St. Bakhita, is examples. And remember, debate, what we say under one line is that evidence is the starting point of any debate. Where was your evidence, all right? So when you give all these empathy, societal factors, all those kind of things, we need that, all right?
And we have come to the end of this debate, and I will just go straight ahead to our percentages. And the judges awarded St. Bakhita Siakago with 57.7%. A round of applause, please, for St. Bakhita. And the judges awarded Kyeni girls with 55.6%. A round of applause, please, for Kyeni girls. And the winners of this debate are St. Bakhita Siakago with 57.7%. A round of applause, please, for our winners. And we have come to the end of this debate. And until next time, it is goodbye from us here at the Debate Circle. Remember to check our social media handles for more of this content and tournaments on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Threads at the Debate Circle. Kwaheri.